Welcome to Pelvic Floor 101. We're going over all the things for pelvic floor, what you need to know, what is it, what can we do to strengthen it, what can we do to release it, because we need to be able to do both. And then at the end of this, we're gonna go over just kind of the 101 on how to prepare it and essentially kind of release some of that tension to prepare you for birth. So first of all, what is our pelvic floor? It is the foundation of our core four. So it is part of those four muscles: pelvic floor, diaphragm, transversus, abdominis, and our multifidus. And it's a group of deep muscles that are responsible for stabilizing and helping control our body's movement. So very important. So together with the multifidus, diaphragm, and transversus abdominis, the pelvic floor has a role in breathing, in creating tension in your abdominal wall, so avoiding that intra-abdominal pressure that you'll hear me talk about, and then stabilizing your pelvis and your body. So super, super important. It is a collection of muscles, nerves, tendons, blood vessels, ligaments, and connective tissue. Lots of things, the pelvic floor. I keep going like this because I like visualize it as a hammock, and they're all interwoven into your pelvis, all right? So it attaches, we're gonna pretend like this little hammock that I keep drawing is your body. The front part of your pelvic floor attaches to your pubic bone. And then the back part of your pelvic floor attaches to your tailbone. And then the side attaches to our sitz bones, which if you touch your butt, the bone like right in the middle of your butt, those are your sitz bones. It forms the base of your pelvis. It's like a hammock, like I just said, and it's responsible for some super important things like sexual response and incontinence. As the foundation of our core, the pelvic floor helps support some super important organs like our bladder, our rectum, and our growing uterus. It also plays a super important role in incontinence, which I touched on just a second ago, and it may be one of the things that you really kind of relate to pelvic floor. Basically, having a functioning pelvic floor can help you control incontinence so that when you sneeze, cough, run, jump, you don't leak. So here's where the pelvic floor really comes into play for you. During birth, the pelvic floor muscles must yield to allow there to be space for the baby to pass through the birth canal. So again, pretty important, right? Pelvic floor is so, so important. There is actually an ejection reflex that will help push your baby out. So we really need to be in tune with our pelvic floor so that we can work with our body and work with that reflex and work on getting baby out. So for all of that to happen at once, the pelvic floor needs to have strength, endurance, timing, coordination, control, all of these things. A fully functioning pelvic floor not only can contract and be strengthened, but it can be released and lengthened. We need to be able to do both throughout pregnancy, throughout labor and delivery, and that's going to help us postpartum during our recovery as well. So when I say strengthen and contract, the word that I think almost every woman has heard before is a Kegel. A Kegel is an example of a pelvic floor contraction. Kegels, though, are not the only answer for pelvic floor work. For pelvic floor strength, they can be beneficial, but a Kegel is an isolation exercise, so it is teaching you to essentially flex. You are contracting that muscle. A Kegel does not allow you to release and lengthen the pelvic floor, okay? So Kegels do serve a place, but they're not the end-all be-all pelvic floor exercise. We need to be able to do both, strengthen and lengthen. So as you may guess, one of the most challenging things for the pelvic floor is birth. And there are lots of things that we can do to protect the pelvic floor, working on posture, so correct alignment, correct posture, and hugging your baby. So now that we've kind of gone over what the pelvic floor is, I've given you a visual, you know where it's connected, what it's responsible for, let's go over how can you prepare your pelvic floor for birth, because that's probably what you want to know. So I keep saying that relaxing is just as important, but how do we relax our pelvic floor? That is going to be lengthening exercises. So a hinge, for example, when you're in that eccentric phase of the hinge, that is lengthening your pelvic floor, okay? So right here in this position, my pelvic floor is lengthened. So that hammock that I keep showing as a visual is lengthening right here. So lots of pelvic floor and birth prep exercises that we do are going to be in a hinged position because they're going to allow for that lengthening. And another great way is through internal rotation. So including hip internal rotation throughout pregnancy, both with strength exercises and with mobility exercises, is going to create more space in the back of our pelvis in the bottom of our pelvis. And because there's a top, a middle, and a bottom, and creating more space in the bottom of our pelvis is obviously going to encourage baby to descend. It just allows you also to access those birthing positions more comfortably and more confidently. What internal rotation does is it actually moves those sitz bones that I was talking about in each butt cheek to the side to, again, create more space for baby to move right on down. So now that we've gone over that, let's go over a few exercises and explain why they are beneficial. All you will need for this, two things. One is either a yoga block or a pillow, something that's a little bit of an incline, and then a ball, but a harder ball. So like a tennis ball, if you have like a massage ball, something like that, because we're gonna be working on some trigger points. So this isn't actually going to be a workout. I'm just going to be showing you what these exercises are so that you can confidently go through them and incorporate them as it feels best once you reach the last several weeks of your pregnancy. So the first one, this is one of my favorite ones. It is quadruped hip shifts. So for this one, you are going to need a small pillow or yoga block to encourage that hip to shift. So with a quadruped hip shift, this is great for promoting hip internal rotation and creating space in the back of the hip. So you're going to quadruped position right here, okay? You're going to place one knee up on this ball. On that inhale, you're going to shift your hips, okay? I'm gonna actually turn this way. So you're going to press down with the knee on the block, okay, press it into the ground right here, okay, and we are shifting that hip up. So inhale, breathe into your back, expand, and then exhale, shift that hip up. Inhale, and press that hip up, okay, so that internal rotation is happening right here. Inhale, hug the baby, shift that hip, okay? Obviously, repeat it on each side. So for a different angle, right here, inhale and exhale, shift up. Inhale, exhale, shift that hip, okay? For the second exercise, we're doing a supported hip hinge with a block, a ball, a pillow, something in between your knees. So you're going to place it in between your knees. This is in a hinged position, like I said, to lengthen the pelvic floor. So go ahead and hinge. And then in that hinged position, our pelvic floor is lengthened. We're gonna add that block squeeze. What that squeeze is doing is actually, if you're really connected to your pelvic floor, you can feel that. It is going to release any tension and open up the back of our pelvis and our pelvic floor for releasing, okay? So relax here, good relaxed position, squeeze that block or pillow, and you should feel things, that tension in your pelvic floor, you should feel that letting up in that position. This is one of my favorite ones. Highly recommend. You can do it while watching TV, relaxing. It doesn't require that much and really, really does help open up and release that pelvic floor. So this next one is going to be a side-lying internal rotation exercise. So place whatever you've been using in between your knees. This is great because side lying is a very common birthing position. It's actually how I delivered Eli, my firstborn, literally laying on my right side like I'm doing right now, like this. So practicing this is literally great birth prep. It's great practice for birth and intuitively moving in this position when you are delivering. So you're gonna lay on your side, and then that internal rotation is right here. So you're squeezing the whatever's in between and then internally rotating. Or inhale and then exhale, hug your baby, and bring that up, all right? Good news about this position is this one is attainable with an epidural as well. Next is an inverted breath, and you can include a hip shift with this as well. This inverted breathing is, again, providing us with that hinged position for lengthening. So you're going to drop it down right here. Hopefully in this position, just from the get-go, you can feel your pelvic floor lengthen and relax, okay? So just breathing in this position is great practice, but you can also add that hip shift in like we did on the first exercise. So right here, shift, inhale, and exhale, add that shift in, okay? So creating length and space in the pelvic floor. The final exercise is the one that you're going to need a ball for and something to sit on, just any old chair, bench, whatever. This is going to be external trigger point release. So those surrounding muscles of our pelvic floor, if our pelvic floor is tight, it's holding tension, it's gonna affect those surrounding muscles as well. So if you've got a tight piriformis or inner thighs, it's all connected. So finding a trigger point and releasing that can be super beneficial when it comes to preparing for birth as well. So you're gonna go ahead and place that ball, start with it on your sitz bones, and you can feel, roll around, and once you find a trigger point, you'll feel it, leave it there, okay? Kind of embrace that discomfort. It's going to release some of that tension. And you can hang here as long as you want. Do it on both sides so that you can find those trigger points on both sides. You may find that one side is more tight than the other. That could be due to how you're standing, how your body's growing, where baby's located, and all of that. But this just kind of explains why we do them and then what the pelvic floor is, what we can do for it, or what we can do with it to prepare for birth and all of that. So strongly encourage this. Remember, we need a strong pelvic floor, but we also need to be able to relax it. Hope this was helpful, mamas.